I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now. I need you to put your phone down, close every other tab, and give me the next 30 minutes of your life. Because what I am about to tell you is not a prediction, it is not a theory, and it is not something I pulled out of thin air. This is happening right now, today, as you are watching this video, and by the time I finish breaking this down for you, you will understand why the next 72 hours could be the single most important window for gold and silver in the last 20 years. Most people who own gold and silver have absolutely no idea what is building right now beneath the surface. They are looking at the price on their screen and thinking everything is fine. But the people who understand what is actually happening, the people in government buildings, in military command centers, in central banks, and in the trading floors of the biggest institutions on earth, those people are moving money right now. They are repositioning right now. And if you do not understand what they understand by the end of this video, you will be the last one to react when the world wakes up to what is coming. Let me paint you a picture. Right now, at this very moment, there are 2 United States Navy aircraft carrier strike groups positioned around Iran. 2. The USS Abraham Lincoln is already sitting in the Arabian Sea. The USS Gerald R. Ford, one of the most technologically advanced warships ever built by any nation in human history, is sailing toward the eastern Mediterranean as you watch this. And here is the detail that should stop your heart for a second. U.S. officials have openly stated that the Ford's arrival in position will be the key factor in determining the timing of military operations. Not if operations happen, when. That word choice is not an accident. That is a government official telling the world in plain language that a clock is ticking. And around those 2 carriers, there are over a dozen additional warships spread across the Arabian Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean. A ring of steel encircling a country of 90 million people whose leadership has spent 5 decades chanting death to America in their parliament. But it does not stop with ships. In the air above that region right now, there are over 100 combat aircraft F-35 stealth fighters that Iran's radar cannot even see, F-22 Raptors that are considered the most dominant air superiority jets on the planet, F-15s, A-10 Thunderbolts, electronic warfare jets whose entire purpose is to go blind every radar and communication system Iran has the moment the order is given. There are 4 AWACS aircraft providing command and control from the sky. There is a U-2 Dragon Lady spy plane collecting intelligence in real time. And then and this is the part that genuinely kept me awake. When I first saw it, there is a WC-135R aircraft deployed in the region. Most people have never heard of a WC-135R. Let me tell you exactly what it does. The military calls it the Constant Phoenix. Its sole mission is to fly through the atmosphere and collect air samples to detect radioactive particles, nuclear material, evidence of weapons-grade enrichment activity. You do not deploy a nuclear detection aircraft as a bluff. You deploy it because you are deadly serious about understanding what is happening inside Iran's nuclear program at this very moment. And then, on top of all of that, B-52 Stratofortress bombers, nuclear-capable strategic bombers, have been positioned at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which is the forward headquarters of U.S. Central Command and sits roughly 1,200 kilometers from Iran's border. I am not telling you nuclear weapons will be used. I am telling you the machines that can carry them are sitting on a runway in the Persian Gulf right now, and that fact alone should tell you everything about how serious this moment is. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking okay, this sounds scary, but this is all just posturing. This is just America flexing its muscles to force Iran to negotiate. This is political theater. Nothing is actually going to happen. And I understand why you would think that, because that has been the playbook for decades. War, move ships, make threats, reach a deal, go home. But here is what is different this time. And here's why I believe this situation is fundamentally unlike anything we have seen since the Iraq War. Since January 16th of this year, over 160 C-17 cargo aircraft have flown supplies, munitions, and equipment into the region. THAAD and Patriot missile defense batteries. The systems you use to shoot down incoming ballistic missiles have been deployed across Gulf partner nations. Nearly 100 additional flights moved just the air defense systems. You do not move that kind of hardware, at that kind of scale, at that kind of cost, just to make a point in a press conference. That is a staging operation. That is the logistical footprint of a sustained military campaign, not a weekend show of force. And the Israeli government, whose intelligence services have eyes inside Iran that no other nation can match, is reportedly preparing for war within days, not weeks. Days. When Israel's security establishment starts moving on that timeline, it is because they know something. And what they know should be scaring every investor who is not positioned in hard assets right now. Here's the diplomatic reality, and I want to be completely honest with you about this because I think a lot of commentary on this topic is either too optimistic or too pessimistic. Trump's team au revoir, including Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, met with Iran's foreign minister in Geneva earlier this week for 3 hours. 3 hours of talks between two sides that are at this moment staring each other down with the largest military force in 20 years. Both sides said there was some movement, but a senior U.S. official described the meeting as essentially going nowhere. And when you look at what Trump is actually demanding, a permanent halt to all uranium enrichment, a capped ballistic missile program, and a complete end to Iran's support for proxy forces in Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, and Gaza, you begin to understand why a deal is so difficult. Because Iran's supreme leader has publicly and explicitly stated that the Islamic Republic will never surrender its nuclear program. Iran's own atomic energy chief has said that enrichment is the foundation of everything they do, and that no foreign power has the right to take it away. This is not a negotiating position. This is a theological and ideological commitment. And the people who think Iran will just blink and fold under military pressure are forgetting something important. Or else. This is a regime that has survived 45 years of sanctions, isolation, assassination of its top military commanders, and multiple covert sabotage campaigns against its nuclear infrastructure. They did not survive all of that to surrender, the one thing they believe protects them from being the next Iraq or the next Libya. And now, right now, at this exact moment, Iran, Russia, and China are conducting joint naval exercises in the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea. Read that sentence again slowly. The country America is threatening to bomb is running war games in the same waters where American carriers are sailing, alongside the militaries of the world's two other nuclear superpowers. This is not a coincidence. This is a message. Russia and China are telling Washington in the clearest possible language, short of an actual declaration, that any military action against Iran will not happen in a vacuum, that the consequences will be global, not regional, that the risk of this conflict escalating into something far larger than a strike on nuclear facilities is real, and that America needs to think very carefully before it pulls that trigger. The last time America launched a major war in the Middle East without fully understanding the downstream consequences, it spent 2 decades trying to dig itself out of the wreckage. And that was before China had the world's largest navy, and before Russia had turned its military into a battle-hardened force fresh from years of combat operations. The stakes of miscalculation in 2026 are categorically different from what they were in 2003. Now, let me bring this directly to what it means for your gold and your silver. Because that is ultimately why you are here, and that is ultimately what I need you to understand before this weekend. Gold has recently pulled back slightly after hitting historic highs. And I want to tell you something that the mainstream financial media will never tell you. That pullback is not weakness. That pullback is the market breathing before the next move. Every single bull market in the history of financial markets has had moments where it consolidated, where it caught its breath, where the impatient sellers convinced themselves the rally was over right before the next leg up. And the structural reasons that gold has been rising are not gone. They are not diminished. They are in fact stronger than they have ever been. Central banks, particularly in Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe, have been buying gold at record pace for 3 consecutive years. Why? Because in 2022, the Western world froze Russia's sovereign reserves overnight. $280 billion gone with the stroke of a pen. Every central bank on earth that is not completely aligned with Washington watched that happen and thought, that could be us. And they started buying the one asset that cannot be frozen, cannot be sanctioned, cannot be seized remotely, physical gold held outside the Western financial system. That trend is not reversing. It is accelerating. And war in the Middle East does not slow central bank gold buying. It sends it into overdrive. But if gold is the safe haven, silver is the powder keg. And I say that not to be dramatic, but because the physical data tells a story that is almost impossible to believe until you see it. The registered silver inventory on the COMEX, the silver that is actually available and eligible for immediate physical delivery, has been draining at an alarming rate for months. And here is something most people do not know. Silver miners right now are selling physical silver for delivery at prices significantly higher than the spot market price. That gap, between what physical buyers are actually paying and what the paper market says silver costs is a signal. It is the market telling you that the paper price and the physical reality are diverging. And when a divergence like that exists in a commodity market, one of two things happens. Either demand falls off and the physical price comes back down to the paper price, or the paper price violently reprices upward to reflect physical reality. Given that silver demand from solar panel manufacturers, electric vehicle producers, defense electronics companies, and medical technology is projected to increase every single year for the next decade, the idea that demand is about to fall off is not credible, which means the other scenario becomes inevitable. And you want to be holding silver before that inevitability arrives, not after. Now let me walk you through what I am calling the 4 scenarios Airsdoro, because I think clarity here is more valuable than false certainty, and I want you to be mentally and financially prepared for each possible outcome. Scenario 1, military strikes happen and the Supreme Court upholds the tariff structure. In this scenario, gold goes vertical. Silver follows with potentially even larger percentage gains because of its smaller market size. Oil spikes 30 to 40% in the first 48 hours. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point through which 20% of the world's daily oil supply passes, gets threatened or blocked. Global markets sell off sharply, and the COMEX, which is already draining, faces an acceleration of physical demand on top of everything else. This is the scenario where you wake up on Monday morning, and the price of everything has changed overnight. Scenario 2, war happens, but the court strikes down the tariffs. The war premium immediately overwhelms the tariff ruling. Gold and silver move higher within hours. The correction from the tariff news lasts less than a day before the war narrative takes complete control of every market on Earth. Scenario 3, a diplomatic deal is reached and tariffs are upheld. Gold corrects maybe 5 to 10%. Silver pulls back more sharply because of its volatility. But every structural driver I have described to you remains completely intact, and patient long-term holders use the dip to add to their positions at a discount. Scenario 4, deal plus tariffs struck down our. The most bearish short-term outcome, gold corrects 15%, silver corrects more. And for anyone who has been waiting to enter this market at a better price, this scenario is not a catastrophe. It is the sale they have been praying for. Here is what I want you to sit with for a moment, because I think this is the most important thing I will say in this entire video. A court ruling can be appealed. A tariff can be reimposed under different legal authority, Section 232, Section 301, a national security declaration. A press conference can walk back a political statement, but you cannot undeploy 2 aircraft carrier strike groups. You cannot fly B-52 bombers back from Qatar and pretend they were never there. You cannot put the physical silver back into COMEX vaults that have already been withdrawn. And you cannot unknow what China and Russia now know about America's willingness to project military force in their strategic backyard. The things that are in motion right now are structural. They are not reversible with a tweet or a press release. They resolve in one of 2 directions, or a deal that Iran has shown every historical and ideological signal it will not accept, or a military operation that changes the price of every hard asset on the planet. And the asymmetry of that setup, where the downside is a temporary shallow correction, and the upside is a historic and potentially permanent repricing. Where Dororo is exactly the kind of moment that separates the investors who build generational wealth from the ones who watch it happen from the sidelines and say they wish they had acted sooner. There are a few variables that could shift the exact timing of everything I have described, and I want to walk you through them honestly because I believe you deserve the full picture, not just the version that confirms one narrative. Ramadan began this week. Multiple allied governments in Europe and the Middle East have privately and publicly urged America not to launch military strikes during the holy month, and that political pressure is real. The Winter Olympics conclude this Sunday, and some officials believe no major military action will happen before then. Trump delivers his State of the Union address on Tuesday, and his advisors have indicated it will focus on domestic themes, meaning launching a war in the days immediately before that address creates a complicated political narrative. And there is the question of the USS Ford, because until that carrier arrives in position, the full military capability is not yet complete. But here is what I need you to understand about all of these timing variables. They might delay this by days or even a week or 2. They do not change the direction. They do not change the outcome. They do not change the structural setup that has been building for months. The question was never whether this pressure reaches a breaking point. The question is when. Here's your action plan for the next 72 hours, and then I want to hear from you. And watch for 3 things specifically. First, Arzdolo. Does the Supreme Court rule, and if so, which way? The longer they delay, the more tariff revenue accumulates, and the messier any reversal becomes. which actually reduces the probability of a full strike down, even if they eventually rule against the administration. Second, watch for any confirmed reporting that the USS Gerald R has arrived in the eastern Mediterranean. The moment that happens, the military capability is complete, and the decision belongs entirely to one person. Third, watch Trump's public statements on Iran. He said 10 to 15 days, but people inside his own administration have told reporters that timeline could be shorter. Any shift in that language moves markets immediately. And I am personally watching the COMEX daily vault report that comes out Monday morning, because if fear drives physical silver demand this weekend, that data will show accelerated drainage, and war premium on top of a physical delivery squeeze on top of structural supply deficit is a combination this market has genuinely never seen before. Gold is near historic highs. Silver is coiled like a spring. The military buildup is the largest since Iraq. Russia and China are in the water. And the Supreme Court could reshape the entire tariff regime before you finish watching this video. Drop a comment right now, AR. Tell me which of the 4 scenarios you think plays out this weekend. Share this with anyone you know who holds gold or silver and has not seen this breakdown yet. Subscribe so you do not miss what happens next, because this is not a normal week. And the next time you check the price of gold or silver, everything I have told you today will make complete and total sense.